Well, hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? Yeah, nice hat. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, if you happen to pick up a rock on your way in, that is not, as John said, for throwing at me if you don't like what I have to say today, but I do want you to have it available to you. Hey, quick question. Okay, I'm going to pull you all, those of you who are online, join in. Where are my big luggage people today? Like people who, when they travel, you start with the largest checked bag that is available and you pack every inch of it. Like it's full on the inside, on the outside, every little pocket is filled. And then on top of that, you bring a large carry on, the largest one that can get into the airplane overhead. Okay, some of you are starting to duck right now. All right, I know you, we all know who you are. I personally am just learning who you are. And then on top of that, you have your other purse, which is really a backpack that your purse has been stuffed in, and then you put other things so you can put it underneath your seat, right? And then you have your pillow with a pillowcase that has an extra set outfit that you stuff in there in case you get stuck on the runway for a little bit of time. I know who you are now. Now, where are my people in the room? Where are the people who only have a backpack? Who will put on 3 outfits on top of each other to get onto the airplane and they will fly away? Who don't know what a shoe bag is? Don't know how to carry that. Who in their thinking and in their feeling they think, if I don't have enough, I'll just go to a thrift store when I get there and I'll donate it back before I leave. Anybody else in here like that? Oh, yeah, a couple ladies. I'm very, very impressed. Well, today, oh, no, I got one more question. I forgot about this question. How many of y'all sweat when you take the check-in luggage and you put it onto the scale to make sure? So Seth has that problem with his hair product luggage. Yeah, I had to sneak that one in there just for him. Today, we're going to start a series. It's going to be 3 weeks long, and it's called Baggage. And the baggage we're going to talk about is not the baggage that you take on an airplane, it's the baggage that lives right here, and it's the baggage that lives in your heart and in your stomach a little bit, the center of your being, because it's the stuff that we carry when we get offended, when we hold unforgiveness in our lives over things done to us or things that don't happen to us, and we begin to process and hold on to things, and it becomes a heavy load. My hope and John's hope as we talk about this over the next 3 weeks is that there will be a lot of freedom that is felt in this room and in our whole church. And before we jump in, real quick, I want to let you know where we're headed with it. So next week, it's going to be a little heavy. I'm just going to prepare you for that. We're going to talk about betrayal and things done to us that are way heavier, that are take a lot more to process and to forgive. And so it's going to be a little heavier next week. The following week, John's going to preach on Palm Sunday, and he's going to talk about something that I've only probably heard a handful of times, if I've heard it at all, about forgiving yourself. It's one thing when we show up to church and we talk about how God forgives us and what he's done through the cross and all those wonderful things. But it's a whole different thing for some of us to go, I don't think I can forgive myself for what I've done. So I'm really looking forward to what John puts together for us in that. Today, I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter. I'm going to start a little bit easier to ease us in, a little low-hanging fruit, so to speak. And we're going to talk about small offenses that seem to accumulate and sometimes can lead to some bitterness, some frustration in life. Because can you agree with me? Like, we live in an offended world right now. Absolutely. Like right now, some of you are really offended that I'm wearing a hat while I speak. You're really offended. I did it on purpose and I'm not taking it off. I'm going to let that hang right there this whole time because I'm going to help you with this issue. Some of you are like me. Who are the Whopper fans in the here? Whoppers over on this side? Okay, a few of you. Not many of you. Seth keeps these in his office along with other better candy, but these are for me. Have you ever been offended when there aren't 3 in the package and there are only 2? I was offended just before coming out. I found this very thing to happen in my life. It's easy to get offended. If you're not an offended person, you probably spend 0 time on social media, you don't pay attention to any politics, and you have no religious friends. Now you know what I'm talking about. It's easy to get offended. And can I be a little risky? How many of you know somebody who's easily offended? Don't look at them in the room. Don't look at them because they're easily offended. As soon as they catch eyes, you're going to be offended on that. I think we all deal with it. Maybe for you, you're like me. When your kids roll their eyes, oh, I'm going to kick you into next week. Just ask one of my kids. Just ask them. They will not roll their eyes at me anymore. Just once. Just once. Maybe you can be offended by someone who doesn't say thank you when you do something nice for them. Or maybe you get offended when someone doesn't, you text them and you expect them to text, right? Kids in the room, when you snap somebody and they don't snap back in a reasonable amount of time, or you text your good friend or somebody in your family, and the bubbles start coming up on the response text, and then they go away, and then they come back, and then they go away, but they never finish anything, right? Oh yeah. So some of you know. Here's what we can learn about offense. If you're looking to be offended, I'll bet you'll be able to find it. As soon as when you're always looking to be offended, you'll always find what you're looking for when it comes to offense. And what I want to help you do by looking at some scripture is to help us to deal with the small offenses that often weigh us down and they exhaust us because they live in our heads over and over again. And then they seep their way down into our hearts, and we start to believe some things that simply aren't true. And maybe you can agree with me on this very thought, is that nobody ever wins when you're offended. I've never heard of somebody saying, offense has helped my marriage out by holding a grudge. It's been awesome. Nobody has ever said, my friendships are better when I'm ticked off at my friend for what they didn't do. They affect a lot. They affect churches when people get offended easily. They affect friendships. And here's the thing about offense that I hope we can realize is that your life is too short and your calling is way too big to live an offense or be offended by something small. I want to go through that real quick, and I'm going to have you repeat after me. Your life is too short, and my calling is too great to be offended by something small. I'm going to break that down for you a little bit. Your life is too short. The older people in the room know this. 20 years goes by just like that. To be offended is a waste of the life that you have and that I have. And it's not worth holding on to things. And then for those of us who are followers of Jesus in the room, hear this. That word calling can be weird. You think, I'm not called. Scott, you're a pastor, you're called. Seth is probably called. We're not sure. John is definitely not called. No. What I mean is every one of us has a purpose as a follower of Jesus. If you're not a follower of Jesus, this is not your purpose yet. I hope you're here kicking the tires of Christianity. You're joining us online, and that's what you're trying to figure out. This is not a requirement for you. But every one of us who decide to follow Jesus, we have a purpose, and that's to love other people. You cannot love well while you're offended. My wife often tells me when I tell her I'm happy, she says, say that to your face. So we can always tell when we're not exactly where we should be. And in our life is just way too short, and our calling, our influence is way too important to let small things hold on to. So we've got to do something with those. because it gets exhausting. So I want to set the tone for the whole series and specifically for today by looking at a proverb in Proverbs 19, verse 11. Say this with me: a person's wisdom yields patience. So stop right there. Wisdom is living out what God says. It's hearing what God says and you do it. That's the wise thing to do. You accumulate wisdom. When you live it out, it becomes instilled and it yields a different kind of life. Not an offended life, it yields a patient life. Say this with me: it's to one's glory to overlook an offense. So, overlook, to be over it. Say, I'm over it. You can get over our offenses. You know, the best way to get over something is to drop it. When you got a heavy bag, the best way to get over it is to drop it on the ground. You're already there. You got to get over it. We need to drop our offenses. So how do we do that? Because here's what I'm sure you've done while I've been talking. While I've been doing this, you've been doing this. You're thinking about an offense that's happened. You're thinking about a person whom it came through. Or you're thinking about somebody at work who rolled their eyes at you and you're like, I'll kick them into next week like Scott does his kids. You're already spinning in your minds about that one person or that one thing. So I want to invite us into a moment, a real quiet moment. Just so much. What would it be like if you didn't have to carry around the offense? What would your life be like if you were free from the thing that lives in your head so much? Through the person who lives in your head and you feel it in your heart so much. And for some reason, you're like, why is my relationship with a friend so strained? Why is my relationship with my kids so frustrating? Why is my connection to my church so uncharacteristic of what I thought it would be? What if you could be free of all that and you could just live without offense in your life? Well, I'm going to invite you into one big statement that I believe is the key to living that out. And it comes from Proverbs chapter 10. It says, this is what it says: hatred stirs up strife. Now say it with me. But love covers all offenses. Love covers all offenses. And here's the big statement: we can choose love. We can choose love. Love is the key. Now, let me set the pace for you to just kind of explain and understand what happens. And this isn't anything new. You all know this. In life, there's an opportunity which none of us are very good at. That when something happens to us or something is said to us, there's some kind of action that takes place. Before there's a reaction, there's a split second. There's just a moment right in between where we have interpretation. We'll put something in the gap to close the gap, and it happens usually that quick. What we put in the gap truly matters. From Proverbs chapter 10, we can either put hatred there, or another version says offenses or frustration, or we can choose to put in something that's much more powerful. We can choose to put in love. So, for example, let me just give you an example of what you can put into the gap. So, say Pastor John happens to pull into a Taco Bell, okay? Because that's absolutely plausible. You want to bless Pastor John, take him to the place that I don't believe anybody should eat at. And as Pastor John goes in, the parking lot is usually full of teenage cars, and there's one spot open, and he pulls into it. But he didn't know there was somebody else who wanted to take that spot. And as he's getting out of his car, that person backs up right behind him and blocks him in. And as John turns, the guy tells him how number one he is, all over, and then drives off. Now, John, in this moment between the action and the reaction, he interprets what's going to happen. What he puts into that place really matters. And when those moments happen, we get to choose what we put into the gap. It is an absolute choice. And if you can agree with me on this, and I think you can, we're horrible, horrible interpreters. We love to put negative things into the gap. we love to interpret in wrong ways. And so here's what I know that you already know. There's a scientific term for this. I'm going to give it to you so you think I'm smart. But the idea is I stole this off of Google. It's called the fundamental attribution error. It's the bias to attribute our own behavior to our circumstances while attributing someone else's action to their character. That's what, so, okay, let me put it this way. Parents in the room, you got small kids, and you take them to the grocery store, and they scream their guts out, and they are throwing a fit in the place. And if it's your kid, you're like, oh, come on. There's a reason behind this. My kid didn't have a nap. They didn't eat before they came. They're just having a bad day. Give them a break. But if it's somebody else's kid, they're raising a demon-possessed terrorist, and they've got lazy parents. And if they don't get this thing straight, that kid is going to take our world over in the worst way ever. Oh, some of you have thought it about somebody else's kid, right? Uh-huh. Yeah, I see it on your face. So you already know, you know this probably because you've done somebody wrong sometime, and they've repeated it on social media, or they've said it to somebody else in your family, and you're like, dude, it's me. Don't you know me? I was just having a bad day. And if somebody else does me wrong, I might say, they don't like me anymore. Their character's off. So let me ask you the question. When moments happen, what do you put in the gap? What do you put into the gap? And what if you could do it a little bit differently by taking what Jesus says and really associating it with what he's done and allow that to soak through in your life? Because here's the reality. And how many of you know that there's an accuser named the enemy or the devil? Raise your hands. Online, raise your hands just so you, if you don't know this, it's okay. You don't have, that's not a, there's Revelation chapter 12 says that the accuser day and night stands before God to accuse God's family. That's all he does. Accuses us. They're not good enough. They're not smart enough. Doggone it, people don't like them. They just go, he just goes one thing after another. When we accuse, we tend to just agree with what the accuser has been doing. Why? We've been soaking in the idea of what he's done or what he says, and then we attribute it out to others. So we'll start saying, when she doesn't return or he doesn't return a phone call or a text, they just don't like me. They just don't want to be a friend of mine. There's something wrong, and it's all wrong with them. And here's the funny thing. Accusations don't do anything good. We already know that. It ruins families. It ruins friendships. It ruins communities, because that's what accusations do. But God says we can choose to do something more powerful. We can choose to insert love. Proverbs 17:9 says this: whoever would foster, whoever would take in and nurture love covers an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. I think we've seen the second half enough in our lives. So let's think about this. What would it mean? What does it look like? And what does it feel like to foster love? Well, for one, it would give the benefit of the doubt. Instead of thinking what's wrong with a person, what might have happened that I don't know anything about? It chooses to believe the best instead of the worst, and it trusts the other person. Have you ever heard 1 Corinthians 13 outside of the context of a wedding? And you read it in the context of what it's meant to be, either around spiritual gifts or just around how you think about people. So you've heard it like, it goes like this: love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not rude. It is not easily angered. It always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Always. Because love never fails, but it has to be fostered. It has to be able to be soaked in. So we choose what we want to put into the gap. And we can either continue to feel, I don't know if you feel this way, I feel duped by my own selfish ambitions. It's all about me. Why didn't you answer me? Why didn't you respond to my email? It's all about me. Or I can choose to say, I'm going to insert love. I'm going to think the best about the other person. Ephesians chapter 2 says these words, or chapter 4, verse 2, be patient with one another. Say these two words, making allowances for each other's faults. Why? Because of your love. Now, this kind of love that he talks about is not a fluffy love. It's a love that's been discerned itself, or it's a love that has been received itself. See, we can sit in accusation and soak that in, and then we will squeeze it out. The same thing is held true for love. Love can be fostered, soaked in, made allowances, understanding allowances have been made for us, and then we can give it to someone else. Man and I, a couple weeks ago at the marriage retreat, we talked together to the people, not in front of you. We had a talk, and we talked about sponge, that when you're in your marriage, whatever you soak up, if you soak up love, then when pressure comes, you squeeze that out. If you're just going to soak up all the offenses, all the frustrations, when life is tough, pressure comes, that's what you squeeze out. It's the same thing here, but it's at a much deeper level. And I want to share that level with you, especially if you're someone who is examining Jesus in your life. For those of us who are already followers of Jesus, I want to remind you that the God of heaven, can we go back to that last slide? The God of heaven made allowances for us. That when we cooperated with sin, when we decided to say, hold God at a stiff arm, he still saw in us, for us, what we couldn't see for ourselves. And because of his love for us, he broke into history and he grew up before us perfectly. And he went to a cross to die for the things we couldn't even see in ourselves. And he invited us into a relationship. And he's still not holding anything against us when we do dumb things. Actually, when we actually sin, it's amazing. This won't be in the message slides, but Ephesians chapter 2 actually tells us that we are God's enemies in our minds. We actually are against God. And the consequence of that is that we are dead before God because of sin. But it says, but with Jesus, we're no longer dead. When we say yes to him, we become alive with Christ. See, some of us are playing this game that our life with God is about, I'm bad and I need to be good. But the reality is that we're dead and we need to become alive. And Jesus didn't come to make bad people good or good people gooder. He made a change through the cross to make dead people alive. And when we receive that and we accept that he loves us so much that he gave his one and only son, that whoever believes in him will never perish but have eternal life, we can soak that in and squeeze it out to the others who are around us. When they offend us, when they disappoint us, when they accumulate things, we can drop it, close the gap with the love that we ourselves receive. So when somebody does something wrong, we say they were having a bad day. When they've done us wrong, that maybe something happened to them that we could never ourselves explain. Let's jump back to Proverbs chapter 19, verse 11, and I'm going to try to wrap us up pretty quickly. A person's wisdom yields patience. How many of y'all know you need patience? You need patience. You want to know why? Because some of y'all have been sitting here thinking to yourself, what if the person who offends me does it on purpose? What if they meant to do it and they keep meaning to do it, Scott? What do you say about that? Here's what I say. This is powerful. A person's wisdom, what they get from God, what we've just been talking about, it yields patience. Here's what I like to think about that. Go ahead and try to get me mad. I dropped it. I'm over it. You can't get to me. No, 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 no. It's to my glory. It's to God's pleasure with me to overlook an offense. And in other words, when somebody's trying to get under my skin, I just make a conscious decision right now to drop it. You try to get, nope, can't get me. Done. Try to go me again. Can't do it. It's like dealing with a bully. All you got to do is drop it enough. It's real-time forgiveness, one thing at a time. Can we go back to Proverbs 19 real quick? So this word overlook. How many of y'all want to be Hebrew for a couple minutes? You want to be Hebrew? You want to be Jewish? Everybody wants to be Jewish right now, right? So anyhow. Go. I didn't hear enough of you. Okay. I just wanted to hear you do that. It has nothing to do with this word. The word overlook is the Hebrew word that is abar. Say abar. Abar, to pass over. If you ever heard of the Passover, God passes over judgment. He passes over what he could do. It's to our glory to be like God and pass over offenses. And when you came in today, we asked you to have the rock. Can you get the rock out now? Put it in your hands. And hold up your other hand. Say, I promise I will not throw this at Scott. Maybe at John. Okay. Can you stand up real quick? Just stand up. If you're at home and you don't have a rock, grab something that's not fragile and hold it in your hands. So I know that you've been thinking about a thing that has been driving you up a wall and has been living in your head and maybe even in your heart for a long time. Could you take that thing and just attribute it to this rock that's in your hand? And decide consciously right now you're going to drop it and get over. So in the count of 3, if you're willing to do that, we're going to drop these together and listen to what it's okay. You're anxious to get rid of it. But I also want us to hear what freedom sounds like. How many offenses can get over in one moment. 1, 2, 3. Now here's the deal. You're going to have to pick that up when we're done here. Like you're going to be tempted to do when you leave here about the things that frustrate you. But instead, you want to take that rock and on the way out, you're going to drop it into a basket of forgetfulness. That you're not going to hold on to that anymore. You're not going to carry it home. This is something you're going to walk away with freedom. And I hope today has meant something for you in one area of your life, just one offense. And if you need to go home and buy a bag of rocks from somewhere and you need to drop something every day, do it. Don't hold on to one thing that keeps you from the freedom that God died for you to have, from the calling that you get to live, that is to love other people. Never let it hold on to you again. So Father, I come to you grateful for the gift that you gave us of forgiveness. Lord, I pray that what was attributed to those rocks are now gone and have brought a sense of freedom. And that maybe in the coming weeks, there'll be so much freedom in this place that we will love like we've never loved. Marriages will be healed like they never had the chance to before. That relationships and families can be restored, that kids can come home, that workplaces get transformed, that our community feels the love of Jesus as we just go on being ourselves. May all those things come true. And I pray in Jesus' name, amen.